There are whispers in the dark places of Tarkov, of silent shadows in the night. Ghosts that stalk their prey and kill without a sound. I am, of course, talking about the cultists of Tarkov. As of writing, no one can say for sure who the cultists are or what their purpose is. From what little information we do know about the cult, it would seem that they only appear at night and stalk their targets from the shadows. It's been heavily implied that they use a form of sacrificial dagger to sneak upon their victims and stab them in the back, with the blade possibly being poisonous. From various whispers when we visit Peacekeeper, we learn that some of the informants have turned up dead after investigating some strange lights in the shoreline area. When we investigate for ourselves, we find the informant, unfortunately dead, and we come across some strange markings inside the church. Peacekeeper tells us that this group of shady people use certain areas around Tarkov to make sacrifices to their gods. We've seen numerous locations around the place marked with a circle and strange S-shaped markings, often finding weapons and other valuables left amongst them as some kind of tribute. The details become extremely scarce after this point, with most of the rumours simply not panning out and lacking evidence. But what can we make from this information, given everything else we know about the conflict in Tarkov? Well, it would seem that the cult themselves must be separate from both the PMC groups and the local scav gangs. Both of these groups would not abandon weapons and valuables so easily in such a conflict-ridden area. We know that virtually every trader in the area is always after a functioning weapon, and considering some of the weapons we can find, they would fetch a high price and would be highly sought after. The fact that they allegedly chose to attack at night and with melee weapons is very concerning. They must be aware that the area is swarming with all manner of armed groups intent on wiping everyone else out from existence. Taking this much of a risk, they must be either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. But what if there's another explanation? We also know that the shoreline area recently saw the reappearance of a strange figure known as Sanitar that would regularly dispense drugs and dangerous experimental medications to the local population. When we find these meds, we can see that they all cause a multitude of side effects and that long-term use of these substances would lead to permanent mental and physical damage. We know that Terror Group was also performing experiments with hazardous chemicals in the area, leading to several deaths and more unanswered questions. What if this cult was made up of Tarkov locals, promised help by Terror Group, but instead was slowly and methodically tested upon by the shady company? The horrors of war and the experimental drugs would have no doubt had a massive effect on these people, who would have essentially been civilians. After seeing such atrocities and turning to the drugs in order to even function, they would have developed all manner of serious mental issues. The company, then of course, up and left when the conflict began, leaving these scarred individuals to fend for themselves. Where Terror Group may have had a hand in creating these cultists through their continued abuse of the experimental drugs, they've all but vanished from the scene in Tarkov now. Perhaps with them leaving, and the access to such abundant supplies of drugs drying up, left some of the victims to go insane. Perhaps the local scav gang bosses of the area use this as a convenient way to collect loot and ensure that no one questions them. If they have convinced and manipulated the cultists that they are their gods, then it would make sense that they would bring gifts and tributes for them, in exchange for being left alive. We certainly see evidence of these sacred spots that are usually in the areas where Rashala, Sanitar and Sturman are known to frequent. These are just my thoughts and theories about the cultists in Escape from Tarkov. Digging a little deeper, in the book Voice Behind by Alexander Kontorovich, we could read an interesting passage about an encounter that the main character has with a shady figure that describes the cult worshipping a blue flame, and that this flame had rendered all technology useless. According to the writing, the cult believes themselves to be witnesses to the coming of those that would rule the land, and that they will bring reckoning to the Tarkov area. Ultimately, we still do not know what role the cultists will take in the Escape from Tarkov universe, but I strongly suggest checking out the 3 official books that have been released, as they provide a great insight into some of the characters of the cult. We will, however, have to wait for the cult itself to make its presence known and move out of the shadows. For now, we should probably just be glad of the free loot. I'm currently in the process of writing about the Tarkov books, as they provide a lot of background into the characters and lore of the game, and hope to get another video out on all this once it's done. So stay tuned, and thanks very much for watching. Until next time.